James, I look at Trump this week. It's like March 1945, the Germans' Nero decree: destroy, tear down everything to thwart the advancing opponents. He lashes out at Fauci as an idiot. He demands his usually loyal AG invoke a special counsel against Biden. Preposterous. He stalks off the 60 Minutes set. He goes and at a Pennsylvania rally the other night, he cuts it short and says, "Nobody loves me," and tries to dance, kind of like Julia Louis-Dreyfus on the Seinfeld show. He's going to do something disruptive and destructive at that Thursday night debate. I can guarantee that. He's already slandering the respected moderator. This is the behavior of a caged animal more than an embattled president. He knows he faces defeat, lawsuits, bankruptcy, maybe an orange jumpsuit. But I got to tell you, James, I genuinely worry what he will do in the next 12 days and then in the subsequent 2.5 months.
Well, first of all, the stunning thing that he did, in all of the stuff he does, it's really hard for anything to stand out. But he went to the area and said, "I really didn't want to be here. I shouldn't have been here. I was winning and I had pandemic, I got to come back here, and I didn't want to do it," which is, what was it? Gary Hart said something. He was stuck in New Jersey, and remember that in 1984, and just blew up on him. But when of all of the unconventional things that he has done, and I use unconventional just is the most moderate words that I can come up with, telling people I really don't want to be here. I'm only here because I'm behind. It's in the history of presidential messaging, that stands out as being highly unusual.
Yeah, well,
I read the story and I actually looked at the sound clip. Maybe fake news got it wrong. They didn't.
Well, I agree. There's a lot of stuff that's really easy to ridicule, but I'm serious. I really don't know what a caged animal does. I don't know what Trump does. I don't think he's going to ever go quietly into the night. His ego won't let him do that. His sickness won't let him do that. So I do worry about what's going to happen. And I worry about what protects democracies are guardrails. And I worry about whether the courts are going to adequately protect us, whether his cabinet or Republican senators, and I'm assuming a big Biden victory. And I still think there's a danger.
Well, first of all, with him, there's always a danger of something like this happening. My hope is that if it turns out the way that it looks like it's going to turn out, the way I've thought it's going to turn out for a long time, it's going to be, he'll be more constrained by people internally and more constrained by the courts. The courts are going to look at these election returns. I guarantee you that they don't operate in a vacuum, and people going out in the administration don't operate in a vacuum. None of them can find jobs now, and I think if he tried something crazy with the Defense Department, I think they'd be insubordinate, and that's totally against everything that they're trained and think, but I actually think they would.
Well, I hope and I suspect you're right. But I was struck by that Supreme Court decision this week, refusing to overthrow the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. These are the people who rail against activist judges, and they voted to overturn a state court.
There is no doubt that when Barrett comes on this court, they are going to do things that people are not remotely prepared for to try to retain this kind of power. And, I think what Vice President Biden should say is we'll evaluate the federal judiciary. I don't see any way that they're not going to have to change the federal judiciary. And that decision was unbelievable. And, Roberts, in 4-4, Barrett with 100% voted with the conservatives on that. And that's just unbelievable. And the idea that you postmark your ballot on Monday before the election and it counted on Thursday is that's as normal as it can be. You remember in Florida in 2000 when everybody went nuts about the soldiers voting late and then counting it, and they probably had a point. But under our system, the Medal of Honor winner gets the same vote as a janitor. I mean, that's just what it is. And I don't know to what extent that they're going to go to in the Supreme Court, but it's going to be pretty draconian. I promise you. And that case was just a tip off.
Well, it was because what it is, again, is this is overturning state law, overturning rather a state Supreme Court. That's not what the Supreme Court does. That's not what supposed originalist conservatives are do. They don't legislate from the bench. This was activism that would have put Earl Warren to shame. And basically it was done for one purpose only, and that was to help the Republicans. And that's the way, and once Amy Barrett gets there, you're right. So that it has to be a decisive election. You just can't
So,
exaggerate how bad that four-person, I guess it was a dissenter, that four-person Republican conservatives on the Supreme Court on that Pennsylvania case. It really
so
was just awful.
before we leave Amy Barrett, I think she's a liar. Okay, you could not graduate at top of your class high school, top of your class at undergraduate school, top of your class at Notre Dame Law School, be the daughter of a successful petroleum engineer, be a federal judge, be a law professor, and not have an opinion on climate. It's impossible. It's 100% that she lied to that committee. There's nothing you can do about it, but she has an opinion on it. I guarantee you. There's no educated person in this country that doesn't have an opinion on climate.
Hey, thanks for listening to Politics War Room with James Carville, and I'm Al Hunt. Remember to email your questions to politicswarroom@gmail.com or tweet them for next week's show at Politicon. These are great questions. Keep them coming. Thanks for subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. Please rate the show with a 5-star review. We'll be back next week with another show as we get closer to November 3. Please vote.